Hello and welcome to Estuary TV News with me, James Dunn. Today we've got our weekly paper review, but before we do that, here's Richard Morris with the news headlines.
Hello, in headlines today, we've got an interview with the new Hull City of Culture CEO and a new exhibit is open at the Discovery Centre in Cleethorpes. A convicted murderer from Hull is one of two men to be charged with posting explosives and racist letters to solicitors in West Yorkshire and Lancashire. Hull man Brett Atkins, 24, and Jamie Snow, 27, were sentenced to 7 years for conspiracy to send explosives from his cell in Full Sutton Prison. Officers from the counter-terrorism unit were alerted when prison officers found a device. The House of Commons is discussing pancreatic cancer today thanks to a campaign by a Scunthorpe woman who lost her husband to the disease. Maggie Watts launched an e-petition earlier this year for better funding and more research into the disease to improve survival rates that are significantly lower than other common cancers. More than 100,000 people signed the petition, enough to prompt a House of Commons debate on the issue taking place today between 4:30 p.m. and 7:30 p.m. And to watch the debate live, the link is on our Facebook page. The new CEO of Hull City of Culture told business leaders that regeneration was their top priority for 2017. Newly appointed Martin Green told officials and representatives from more than 230 businesses that projects which would improve the city were vital as they prepare to showcase Hull to the world.
This is why City of Cultures exists. They're a means to an end. We're here to build skills, to leave legacy, and don't forget we're also one small part of a much wider programme run by the Council in terms of regeneration, bringing new businesses here. They've already announced thousands of new jobs coming to Hull. We're also working with them on the public realm works. So we see ourselves very much as playing a part within that, and during 17 helping to expedite that and shining a light on Hull for the rest of the country and the rest of the world to see.
Residents had the chance to comment on controversial plans to build up to 250 homes in Healing. Sidon Homes, who recently had an application rejected for a development in Scartho, put their plans on display in Healing Village Hall before an official application is submitted. We asked David Hashthorpe, chairman of Healing Parish Council, if these plans would affect the charm of Healing.
The peace and quiet is a reason why people move here. I've been here for 27 years. Children went to the school here. The other thing is, of course, you've got to bear in mind that it may be peaceful and quiet, but unless we get some affordable housing, the children who grew up here can't live here. So they're isolating parents in their older years. And also we've got quite a lot of property already for sale here. So who's actually going to buy these properties?
They may keep you warm at night, but do they keep you safe? North Lincolnshire Council wants people to get their electric blankets tested in the lead up to the winter months. The tests are free and more information about the scheme can be found by calling local links in North Lincolnshire. The Barnetby Household Recycling Centre will close for around a month today as part of a £650,000 investment in facilities across the borough. North Lincolnshire Council are advising residents to visit the nearest alternative community recycling centres in Brigg and Scorby Brook until it reopens on Monday the 6th of October. A new interactive exhibit was opened at the Discovery Centre in Cleethorpes on Thursday. The interactive screens allow people to click on ships on the Humber Estuary and find out more about them and their destinations. The centre is part of a partnership between North East Lincolnshire Council and Associated British Ports, or ABP.
We've opened the visitor centre and the Discovery Centre, and thanks to ABP who provide the app and indeed the television screens, and it gives lots of information relating to not only the shipping in Humber but the ecology in the Humber. Don't forget we have a triple SI on our left, and it's a fantastic feature to have, which to a fair degree most people don't even know we've got it, which is a shame.
Well, we've just opened the new visitor centre here at the Discovery Centre, the ABP Observatory. It's at the top of the Discovery Centre, and when you go up there, it actually feels like you're on the bridge of a ship, and it's surrounded by information on what you can actually see out as you look out into the estuary, both in terms of the environmental aspects of it and information on the ecology, but a huge amount of information about what goes on in what is the UK's busiest trading estuary.
That's all from me for now, and we'll be back with more news soon. Goodbye.
Thank you, Richard. Now, every week we take a look at the headlines that's been in all the local media outlets. Today with me, my guest is Tony Bramley, the Chief Executive of Shoreline Housing Partnership. Hello, Tony. Thank you very much for coming in.
Pleasure.
Today. So tell me, it's been a busy week in news, as it is every week. What's caught your eye?
Well, there's quite a lot to hear about energy. There's a lot about housing, which is obviously our field. It's quite a mixed week. You sense it's the end of the summer holidays. It's a bit hard to find exciting stories, but there's some interesting stuff in the papers, nevertheless.
I think so. Sometimes the less exciting ones are the more sort of stimulating ones when it comes to debate. I mean, tell me. Pick one.
Okay, well, here's it's a basic thing, but a really important thing. This is in Scunthorpe Telegraph.
Yeah, front page.
Front page news. Fire flat rescue. I'm lucky to be alive, and it's a hackneyed story, but this lady has her life to thank to a smoke alarm. We all perhaps take them for granted. Sometimes we've got battery-operated ones, which do we or don't we ever check the batteries? Well, here's a case in point. If this lady's smoke alarm hadn't gone off, who knows what might have happened? And certainly as a large social landlord, we've got 8,000 homes. We are constantly reminding people and assisting people to make sure that their smoke alarms are up to date. They know how to get out of their property if there's a fire.
Does it ever feel, as a social housing provider, that the amount you have, does it ever feel a little bit tedious?
It could do, but ultimately, one saving of life. That's what really matters. So, the important work that the Humside Fire and Rescue do, test it on a Tuesday, and we like to do with our partners is really, really important, I think. And people should never underestimate. And I'm guilty at home as well. I sometimes think I haven't tested it. You really ought to do it. And it's surprising. I tested mine recently and it didn't work. So
it's
there you
stories
go.
like that really ram it home, don't you? And I think I might go home and check mine tonight. Yeah. So what else have we got here?
Well, change of theme here. In the Cleethorpes Chronicle, we've got the ongoing story about the railway line. The link really from Hull and from Cleethorpes into the National Rail Network. And in this case, we've almost got it's a funny tension here, because on the one hand you've got the discussion with the lobbying of the rail minister. And some very encouraging sounds being made about the need for electrification of the line. And yet at the same time, we've got another consultation going on suggesting possibly that the direct link between Cleethorpes and Sheffield and Manchester may be cut.
It's almost a contradiction.
It does, so we'll have a fast train, but it won't go all the way. So I do think, somebody in national policy or regulation needs to just think,
so
what are we doing?
Together.
Shall we go really quickly a short distance? No, let's try and go the whole way electrified if at all possible. Really important, I think, for the region. It's been rare for us as a business, but we've actually contributed to the consultation because we think it's very, very important having that link through into the centre of the country.
That answers my next question, though. Do you think the direct line to Manchester is important?
I do, absolutely. I mean, I think if that wasn't there for us, we'd rethink our relationship with Leeds and with Sheffield and with Manchester, and whether we go there for events, meetings, and so on and so forth.
Will people not just get off at Doncaster?
Well, you will, but I mean, time is money. Even if you're a tourist or a casual traveller, you don't want to be hanging around. Nothing wrong with Doncaster station, but you lose half an hour, 20 minutes, 45 minutes in that, and it's that convenience. And I think particularly for the tourist trade, day tripping trade in particular, coming out to Cleethorpes, you want to, especially you've got lots of kids, you've got pushchairs and prams, you want an easy journey.
It's a major operation.
You just want to go in one go. You don't want to be faffing around part way through having to change. And therefore I think it is, business is important, but it's really important for people just coming and enjoying the seaside at Cleethorpes as well.
That's great, yeah. I mean, it sends a message, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, it does, hopefully.
I suppose next, one of the biggest stories of the week actually will be something that's definitely been mentioned before, but here in the Hull Daily Mail and various other media outlets, we've got them talking about the fact that the City Council has approved plans for the Siemens development, which is supposed to bring millions and millions of pounds into Hull. I mean, that's got to be good news, hasn't it?
I think it's fantastic news for Hull. It's been a long time coming. It's got to be really welcome for Hull, the economy of that side of the river. But I mean, the spin-off benefits to the Humber as a whole, and obviously talking on this side of the bank for Grimsby and for Scunthorpe, it's really, really important for them as well, because you can already see the growth of the wind farm, maintenance operations coming out of the fish docks in Grimsby. Very, very busy now. We were there a couple of weeks ago doing something, and it was amazing to see how many boats there were coming in and out of the dock gates there, and all the construction that's going on already. And that's before you have Siemens and I think it's rare that you get such a big economic impact and such a very positive story, and I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it's huge for the area. Great news in itself. But I did want to pick up on something else you mentioned to me, actually, because, we've got this here, and, it can only be seen as positive.
Yeah.
But it's actually quite interesting, because in the Grimsby Telegraph, we've got NELC talking about, actually, as well as, from the environmental side, as well as the economic side, as well as putting renewable fuel into the system, we also need to be looking at the way we consume energy.
Absolutely. And I think, much has been made in the past of Grimsby's food town, or, the centre of fish processing. And I think if the Humber becomes a centre for renewables, wind energy, which it looks likely, one of the things I'm very keen on, I know the other partners, North East Inch Council, in this case, the story about the Freeman and Freeman Street, one of the things is, well, shouldn't we be looking at ourselves about how much we consume? We might produce it greenly, but do we still consume it in a very greedy manner? And wouldn't it be much better if we were consuming less? So I think, it'd be great to be the renewables estuary, but it'd also be great to be a green town as well, with a lower carbon footprint through solar panels, through any forms of generation that we, district heating, all sorts of things, biomass, whatever it might happen to be, so that as consumers we get as green as we are being in terms of being producers out at sea.
Now, for individuals, you often hear people, you'd think maybe to save money on my electric, it might require an awful lot of investment, but actually that money, I probably won't get it back very quickly. As a social housing provider where you own that many properties, does it change your outlook?
It does. We were thwarted in our attempts we were going to put about 4,000 houses worth of solar panels on about 4 years ago, when the government changed the tariff regime and it became less economic for us. Interestingly enough, it is the case that as the tariff has dropped and it's become less attractive, at the same time, and almost balancing that out, the cost of the panels has also fallen as productive capacity across the world has risen. So your capital upfront cost has dropped. So a lot of housing associations and businesses now looking back at this and saying, well, the tariffs are down, but the cost has gone down. Should we get back in the market? It's certainly something we'd be actively looking at.
Okay, well, great to hear.
Yeah.
Trying to see what else we've got here then. This is one of the biggest stories we've had, and it's gone on and on. But about the Lancaster bombers that have been in the area recently, have you enjoyed seeing them?
Well, yes, and I think I was saying to you earlier, one of the ironies for us, and it's a terrible thing to say, I think I was in a meeting in our offices, which are down near the docks in Grimsby earlier this week, and we heard the droning sound. It was probably last week, actually. We heard the droning sound of the two Lancasters going past, and somebody said, oh, I think it's the Lancasters, and nobody really turned and looked round because we've seen them so many times. And Lincolnshire's been absolutely blessed over the last few weeks. We're seeing them all the time, and almost there's a danger of taking them for granted. Then one of them's gone down. I think the Canadian one's been out of service, and all of a sudden you start to realise, well, actually this is a very valuable and cherished thing, the likes of which we may never see again. And really, when they do fly past, you should turn and have a look.
Yeah, because it's a short time, so we may as well enjoy them, because soon those sites
they may not
will
be
stop.
here. Yeah, absolutely. It's a funny thing, really.
Now, this is something that we see time and time again, but we've got here in the Raisin Mail plans for 350 homes. We've seen in the Grimsby Telegraph plans for 250 homes in Healing. They're interesting, aren't they? Because, that in itself would be 600 homes. But they always meet opposition from people in those areas, yet that always seems to be where they are.
Well, particularly as the economy's taking off and the housing market clearly is taking off on the back of that, there seems to be a huge pent-up appetite for house builders, developers to build on attractive sites, which generally speaking tend to be urban fringe greenfield sites where the costs are lower and people like to live in those places. So it's the same as true of the southern fringe of Grimsby and Cleethorpes, where there have been many, many hundreds of applications. Now, of course, applications and permissions are one thing, actually building them is something else. So people do get quite fraught about hearing, 200 here, 300 there.
Well, I'm afraid that's all that we've got time for today. Don't forget that you can get in touch with us with stories on 01472 315 561 via social media, or email us at news@estuary.tv. Well, thank you very much for watching. Thanks for coming in today, Tony, and we'll see you next time.